to the rug. Continuing our story with Ben Franklin. Here we go. His old master was only too glad to take him back, and it was not long before his faithful friends helped him to get a printing shop of his own. There he worked early and there he worked late, but for his friends he always had time. He lent them his books, he taught them what he had learned. He started a club called the Junto, where young tradesmen could gather and learn from one another. He was merry and happy, and though he was a master printer now, he did not hold himself too grand for any work. His fellow townsmen saw him pushing his papers through the streets on a wheelbarrow. "He will go far," one neighbor said to the other. "We see him at work when we get up. He is still working when we go to bed." He saved every penny he made, and in this way he could not help but prosper. He got more and more printing to do, and soon he had a house of his own and helpers and apprentices working for him. He began to look for a thrifty, hard-working wife, and whom he should marry in the end, but the girl who had stood in the doorway and laughed when he first came to town. Her name was Deborah Reed. What was her name? Deborah Reed. She did not care much about reading or writing, but she admired her Benjamin above all, and she made him a good wife. She ran his house. She helped him in the shop. She wasted no money on finery, idle servants, or costly food. They lived well and happily together, and soon they had a son and a daughter of their own. There was much laughter and gaiety in Benjamin's house, for he was a great one for making jokes and witty puns. It was Benjamin Franklin's wit and common sense that first made him famous up and down the coast of America. He printed books, he printed pamphlets, he printed a newspaper of his own. And when he was 26 years old, how old was he? 26. He also began to print his own calendar. He called it Poor Richard's Almanac, and he presented it. He called it Poor Richard's Almanac. I'm sorry, and he pretended it was written by a poor stargazer whose name was Richard Saunders. Poor Richard had a shrew of a wife who was always scolding him for watching the stars, predicting weather and wind instead of making a livelihood. To satisfy her, he put his observations into a calendar, hoping that many people would buy it. And the spaces between the dates were filled with puns and funny sayings. While the whole town slept, Benjamin sat at his desk and chuckled to himself as he wrote Poor Richard's Proverbs. And from Rhode Island to North Carolina, people chuckled with him. Soon, there was hardly a house where his calendar did not hang on the wall. Poor Richard made Benjamin Franklin a lot of money. Still, he and his family lived a simple life. Great was his surprise when he came to breakfast one morning to see a silver spoon and a china dish at his place. He thought an earthen dish and a spoon were good enough for him, but his wife said that if her neighbors' husbands could have china and silver, so could her husband, who was a greater man than any of them. Benjamin Franklin was a good citizen. Though he was busy, he always had time to help other people. As I'm saying that, what are some ways that we can help other people? I want you to think about that. And soon it came to pass, if anything was to be done for the welfare of the town, people came to ask his advice. He started a library so that everybody who wanted to read could have books. He started a school. He said that he who teaches himself is a good person. That school became the University of Pennsylvania. He started a night watch for the protection of honest people. He begged money for a hospital for the poor. He organized the fire department so that the whole town would not burn down. That was the first volunteer fire department in the American colonies, and Philadelphia became the safest town. As one of the city fathers, Franklin helped to govern the town, and he became the postmaster of Philadelphia. And he was also able that he was made postmaster of all the American colonies. He had become well-to-do and respected. Benjamin Franklin never cared for money, or money, he never really cared about money. But for the leisure that it gave him, he bought himself a big house where he had a lot of rooms for his books and a little quiet place that he could work. Benjamin hated to waste things. One day, looking at his fireplace, he thought how it all ate the wood he fed it and gave it back very little heat. He pitied the women who did much of their work at the fireside. The heat shriveled their faces, and the drafts in the cool room behind them made their backs stiff. So he built a little iron stove with an open front that fitted into the fireplace. The stove drew in the cold drafts, heated the air, and sent the warm air into all the corners of the room. The women blessed him. The fame of the Franklin stove spread even to Europe, but his work on electricity was to mean even more to the whole world. That's our reading of our story of Benjamin Franklin. Wait, let me show you. I gotta get on the rug. Wait, I gotta get on the rug. What's up, guys? What's up? I'm on the rug. I got my old school TV back there. Benjamin Franklin. I'll talk to you later. Peace.